thank you for hitting play on the new podcast from PRCA. Executive Chairman at S4 Capital, Sir Martin Sorrell, is our first guest to feature on Fuse.
Go!
My name's Dan Gold, and it's my honour to welcome you to this episode, which is packed with insights from Sir Martin, and you'll have the opportunity to let us know what you think about the topics discussed. More on that later. This year's prestigious PRCA International Summit takes place on the 30th and the 31st of March, sharing unparalleled insight on how PR and communications professionals are defying global markets to deliver exceptional value for organisations and societies around the world. Topics touch on meaningful metrics, company culture, misinformation, vaccines, and so much more. For more information, click on the link in the description of this episode. And now for our feature interview with Sir Martin Sorrell. Sir Martin, may I start with this question? How has public relations performed in comparison to other creative disciplines during the pandemic?
When you look at how the holding companies describe public relations, or how they categorize it, or they number it, I think public relations probably has done better than traditional media during the course of the pandemic. And that doesn't mean the pandemic's over, but certainly in Q2, 3 and 4 of last year, where we've seen the results, public relations, so-called, was not down as much as traditional creative or traditional media. The digital side of public relations, which is where I think the industry should focus on, what we would call the social media side, has actually been quite resilient. If you looked at the social media component part of it, or you classified it as social media, probably public relations, instead of dropping, let's say 5 to 12%, probably fell by about 0 to 5, or certainly 0 to 7.5. So some of the public relations companies were more resilient, and I think the ones that were most resilient were the ones that moved into social media faster. So the ones that were creating social media content in an always-on 24/7 world, those ones were the ones probably that did best.
In terms of where public relations sits and marketing and advertising and this ball of convergence whilst having individual specialism, the importance of conversation and community engagement is something that public relations does particularly well. Do you think that's been the difference maker in terms of engaging with people, having a conversation and taking it further rather than just pushing content at them?
Well, yes. I mean, I think public relations has to morph into the digital part of the business. And the way to do that is to focus on social media or on the platforms, and to look at how you can create relevant content. It can be for consumers. It can be for B2B as well as B2C. It can be for B2G, I mean, in business to government. So it's in all areas of the industry, but really the public relations industry, just like the traditional advertising industry, has to change dramatically. And unfortunately, the historic investment in the public relations industry has been in the traditional media and the traditional approaches. It hasn't been in the new approaches. So if you're running, I don't know, Edelman or Shandwick or whatever it happens to be within a holding company or independently, you have an analog core that is very difficult to adapt to digital growth. And you see all the agencies wrestling with that challenge. They're dragged down, just like, I mean, the public relations agencies are dragged down by the traditional approaches just as much as the traditional advertising agencies are dragged down by the move to digital media and digital investment. After all, digital crossed 1/2 of the digital media marketplace, which was 550 billion last year, and digital investment by clients breached 50% for the first time and is forecast to get to 70% by 2024. So just like traditional advertising agencies have to almost blow up structures, I think PR agencies have to do the same. They have the history, they have the reputation in the past, but they face exactly the same challenges, maybe on a different scale.
Do you think there's an element of truth to the business side of what we do, in the sense that the big holding companies have traditionally been quite disparate in their different business units, almost fighting against each other for business? And there's a sense that a simplicity and agility of a cleaner operational structure makes sense in this day and age, and certainly moving forwards.
What you have to have is a unified, seamless company. Now, every one of the holding companies talks about that. The structure, what they say and what they do are totally different. They might turn up at a pitch with the same T-shirts, but then, immediately the pitch is won. Each of the verticals scrambles for it. And if you make the verticals stronger, you create more hassle. Several people don't like the idea of horizontality, which is how I somewhat inadequately tried to describe it. But what I was trying to say is you have to be one firm. So the best examples of a professional service firm are, in my view, McKinsey and Goldman, and being one firm. But none of the holding companies have created a structure yet that meets that point. Our fourth principle, our mission at S4 is to build a new advertising and marketing services model, new age, new era, as we call it, because we think the old one is not, which I referred to just now, is not fit for purpose. And so we have two sort of missions, if you like. One is to build a new model, and the other is to disrupt the old. So just like Tesla or Amazon, to use grand examples, with disrupting an industry. And then we have four principles. The first around purely digital, because that's where the growth is, as I explained. Our model is data-driven, to your point about data, and it's data that drives the creation, production, and distribution of content. And that distribution is through digital media and using the data and analytics in combination with that. We go to market as faster, better, cheaper, so about agility, understanding those companies that I mentioned, and being efficient. And then the fourth principle is a unitary structure. So from the very beginning, from the get-go, we have been one company. We have no cross-charging. And we're in the process of soft launching our unitary brand at the moment. And we're doing it in a highly planned way, because we saw the disasters when the center announces, to the world, probably using PR agencies, that they're going to merge two parts of their empire. And the CMO of one of their leading client says, you haven't consulted with me. He says publicly, you haven't consulted with me, and forget it. So, I think the people running that company probably forgot what we're in business for. It's the clients we're in business for, and the people. So we're bedding it down and trying to make sure that, you can't please everybody, but make sure that everybody is as happy as possible with the approach. But the unitary structure and the unitary brand is absolutely key. I'd have to say also, I think that the PR companies, which, going back to your first question, probably have done better in the pandemic. Probably they'd be better off on their own. And I do think that the arguments for integration have been probably reduced, because with the growth of digital media, and I think it is fair to say, you look at the independent agencies like Edelman, or you look at the BCW or Shamrock. I mean, they're all actually, when you think about it, competing increasingly with the traditional agencies. And as my hypothesis would be, as you get further into the digital space, they'll compete more. So really what you do is you're creating more cannibals inside the company who are going to eat one another. And so I think probably you've probably got more duplication as a result, and probably dismemberment is probably an even more pressing solution.
For brands or organizations moving forwards, this dream, this thought of going back to the way it was, surely isn't going to happen?
Well, I think there will be the next normal, and even a new normal. It's not. If you're talking about working habits or firstly, I think our people probably, we haven't fully decided, but I think we'll probably be in the office about 60% of the time, 3 days out of 5. There will be people who will be in the office 100% because they just don't have the resources at home. There is always this argument about the new recruits, and we've gone, I was looking as I was writing the statement for next Thursday, we've gone from 2,500 people to 4,400 people in a year. Part of that is through deals, but we've probably added organically about half of that. So if you said it was 2,000, 1,000 people come in organically and 1,000 through deals. Obviously taking that number of people on board for the first time, it's important that they have a feeling as to what we're about and what we're doing, and the sort of arguments you hear from Zuckerberg or David Solomon at Goldman, that you have to be in the building so they can understand the culture of Facebook or the culture of Goldman. And I understand that, but my view is, having gone through what we've gone through, and I'm 76, so I'm an old fart, and I probably should be one of those who's saying you've all got to come back into the office. I mean, there was an Omnicom subsidiary called Zimmerman down in Florida I saw that had a phone conversation with the employees, basically saying, if you don't go back in the office, you won't have an office anymore. You won't have a job anymore, which I thought, one level was amusing, but another level was terrible. I think there has to be more flexibility. That's the first thing. So we will be much more flexible in terms of coming into the office. Secondly, there will be much more flexible in the times that you come into the office. Why is it that you all have to get into a train, at 7 o'clock in the morning, and whether there's a pandemic or not, whether there has been a virus or not, whether you're vaccinated or not, it's just unpleasant. And so trying to get a little bit more flexibility in timing. There will be more dispersed working because people will. We're already seeing and hearing in San Francisco, and to some extent in London, that the property situation is pretty dire in the sense that there's excess supply, and then housing remains expensive in city centres and in cities. So more dispersed living, I think, will happen, and more dispersed working. And then as far as office space itself is concerned, we will have different office spaces in the sense that we decided pre-pandemic we want to go to one office in every city. We operate in about 56 cities in 31 countries. And about 30 of them, 35 of them are just one office, so no problem. But in the other cities, the other 20 or so, we had multi-offices, and we decided we wanted to go to one. So COVID has speeded that process off because we've dropped a lot of leases. But the spaces, when we realign, the spaces would be different. We'll have spaces where people can come and work, spaces where people can meet their colleagues, and spaces where they can meet clients. And, maybe we won't have one location. Maybe we'll have a couple of locations, one for our people, one for our clients. We'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. So we're being quite flexible in our approach. I don't agree with the thesis that we all have to be back in the office.
So, Martin, time has beaten us. I'd like to say a very big thank you for joining us here on Fuse. This is a new enterprise, a new project for PRCA, and it's an honor to have had you join us on this. So, Martin, thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless.
We would love to hear from you following on from our interview. Is there something that stood out for you? How are you feeling about the return to the office? Send us a voice message via the link in the description of this episode. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Fuse. If you liked what you heard, and I hope you did, please leave a review and share this series with your friends and colleagues. Over the next few episodes, we will be introducing new features, and I cannot wait to introduce you to our co-presenter. Music is from Tones Pro and Ixon. More information about this podcast can be found at prca.org.uk/Fuse. And this is a PRCA production.